Hello, I hope your week is going on well. Now, today I want to ask you a question. Have you ever noticed that conflicts and wars in Africa start the moment a precious mineral or crude oil or gas is discovered in certain areas in Africa? And most of the time, we blame the foreigners, which evidence has always shown that they are usually involved. But as Africans, we also have to take blame for some of these actions. I know by now some of you are thinking of Congo and the conflicts in Congo. And you are right. But this video is about Somaliland, right? So last week I made this video where I detailed that Somaliland, and please take note, I'm not referring to Somalia. So Somaliland discovered about 30 trillion barrels of crude oil in one of their offshore oil fields. And this video was shared widely on some of Somaliland blogs. And after that message or that discovery, which was also published on BBC, 3 days later, fighting broke out in one of the regions in Somaliland that borders Somalia. And the reason why this fighting started, it has everything to do with this discovery, the crude oil discovery. Let me read you how this news about the fighting is being reported across the world. So one article I'm going to read says this: at least 35 people have been killed and 53 wounded amid heavy fighting in the Somali city of Las Anod after local clan elders declared their intention to cut ties with the breakaway Republic of Somaliland and rejoin Somalia. In a second day of violence, local elders said on Tuesday that electricity and water in the city had been cut off and a health center had been attacked using mortars. Now, that's from the article. What is happening here, and I'm going to try to interpret, is that the moment Somaliland got this oil, the first thing the Somali government in Mogadishu said was threaten the British company that is or has the license to start the exploration. They told them that they are undermining the sovereignty of the Somali government. But the other thing that they didn't say, or they don't want other people to know, is that Somaliland is an independent country. And I know it's not recognized by most other countries, right? And there is a reason behind that. In 1960, these two countries were colonized by different powers. One had been colonized by the Italian, and the other one was colonized by the British. And the one that was colonized by the British was Somaliland. In 1960, they got independence, and they made a mistake, or Somaliland made a mistake, to try to form a greater Somalia by joining the other Italian Somali. So they came together. But then there was some problems up until 1993 when the government in Mogadishu fell. So Somaliland became independent once again, or they declared their independence. And today, they are more stable than the other Somali, the former Italian colony. They have their own president, they have their own parliament, they have their own army, their own central bank, and their own currency. But they also provide things that the other Somali only dreams of. They provide running water and electricity and healthy centers in all regions inside Somaliland. From the article, that is what I was reading. So why would you want to dissociate yourself with a country like that? And the same country just discovered 30 trillion barrels of oil. So the other Somalia, the one from Mogadishu, incited provinces on its border with Somaliland. So the elders of those provinces have been incited to basically declare themselves not part of Somaliland. They want to dissociate themselves from Somaliland. And the question is, why would someone who is normal want to dissociate himself with a country that just discovered 30 trillion barrels of crude oil, a country on its way to be richer, like Qatar or Kuwait? Why would you want to do that? Unless you have been bribed by a foreign country. And I think the bribes are coming from Mogadishu. That is the only logical explanation, right? And now you also have to ask yourself, why doesn't the government in Mogadishu or the other Somalia do their own crude oil exploration? Because they have never allowed companies to come and do that. Why can't they do exploration on their land and their offshore economic zones in the ocean? Why do they have to wait for other countries like Kenya or Somaliland to do it and then start complaining? To answer that, you have to first of all understand the politics in Mogadishu. So I understand that there are two factions in the Mogadishu government. One side is usually supported by Turkey and Qatar, and that is the main faction. And there is another side that is usually supported by the UAE, that is the Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. And those two factions normally have the politics in Mogadishu. But the question is, why would these Arabian countries support different sides of the government in Mogadishu? The answer is simple: to keep tabs on them, to ensure that they know what is happening before it happens, to spy on them, to ensure that Somalia does not discover oil and gas and become a competitor to either Saudi Arabia or Qatar, to ensure that if they were to discover oil, they are not competitors to UAE, the Emiratis, and the Saudis. Or if they were to discover gas, then they are not a threat to Qatar or the Qataris' position as global gas suppliers from this region. That is the only logical explanation. And now you have a country that has approached their former colonial master, Britain, to help them do exploration for their own natural resources. And this is Somaliland. And the British and a company from Netherlands that does seismic testing came and carried out these surveys and found this oil. Forgive me, I had to pause for a while because I just came across this new article on AFP, and it says that the UN says Somaliland crash have displaced over 185,000 people. So that is the latest news about the conflict in Las Anod, this breakaway town on the southern border of Somaliland and near the border of Somalia, the one from Mogadishu. And now you understand, 185,000 people from that town means it's almost the whole population of that town. So the fighting is that huge. The conflict is big, and I don't know why a lot of international media houses are not picking this. And this is all because Somaliland discovered this oil. There's no other explanation. Because if you look at the trend on what has been happening in the eastern coast of Africa, basically, you started south from Mozambique. Mozambique is a majorly Christian country. But the moment they got the gas, which you can go and Google, they got these Islamic insurgents being imported to that country. And these insurgents came from nowhere, they just came to attack the region where gas had been discovered. And a lot of them, the nationality was Somalia, and they were calling themselves Islamic states, bringing Islam to a country that is majorly Christian because of gas. The same thing happened in Kenya. It's been going on for a while. But you even go to countries like now Tanzania, which found gas. You go to Kenya, which found gas on the border with Somalia. And now here we are with Somaliland. So there's no way you can tell me or explain to me that Somalia, with about 3,000 kilometers long coastline, doesn't have gas and crude oil. The reason we don't know that is because they have never allowed any company to come in and do seismic testing and exploration. But I can tell you, I can bet Somalia is rich in oil and gas. That is a fact.